And it's only fair we get started. So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to edition two of Saturday Morning Live by hashtag at Ryan Live, right live from Dubai. It's the 2nd of May, 2020, and I could not be more excited to have you all with me this morning. For those of us who've been with me in the first edition, you know the format is very singular and simple. We intend to cover three thoughts in 30 minutes with 30 minutes of Q&A to follow. And we have all intentions to have conversations to follow on the social media platform. So sincerely appreciate your time this morning on Saturday. We did adjust the time a little bit considering a sense of ease and laziness is of course at the center of a Saturday feeling, right? So it was only fair that we push back the time a little bit in here, although I quite enjoyed 8 a.m. too, but I think 10 a.m. might just work a little bit better for several of us. So here we go then, let's get started. Well, a little bit about me. I'm not going to go through much in detail of this. I just want to let you read a little bit about myself. I call Dubai home right now, and what I'm about to present, I think today I'm going to talk a little bit about the sources of the information and what kind of amalgamation of content I'm really bringing forward. The primary sources are the very aggressive reading and exposure vantage point position that I have the privilege of being in. So whether it's a lot of the HBS material, Economic Times material, World Economic Forum material, and a lot of great presentations and exchange of ideas and thoughts in my YPO forum chapter and the opportunities provided. And, you know, this has been overlaid with my own life experiences and findings. And I'm trying to put all this together and bring forward a mentorship pursuit to just exchange a thought and create a platform for us to accelerate the learning journey that we are all on. And today, I sincerely would want to start with a salute to the change agent in you. And the change agent this week takes over from the champion leader of adversity that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. And as Rumi very wisely said, yesterday I was way too clever and I wanted to change the whole world. Today I am wise, so I want to change myself. So at this point in time, I'd like you to just close your eyes for 2 seconds and, do a bit of a reflection, because this is about you. This is about us and the change that is ignited inside out, not outside in. So today's 3 thought buckets. Number 1, in leadership, we are going to be taking about 10 to 15 minutes talking about the change agent, right? Which is a very relevant topic considering the times that we are chopping through. In the world around us section, we are going to be talking about our world in a fast forward mode. And I'll talk in a little bit about what that means. It's a bit of a, intriguing phase there. And under the sustainability bucket, we are going to discuss a little bit about gig economy. Now, gig is something that all of us understand in our own way. Till some time ago, even I had a loosely stacked understanding of gig, but today we'll endeavor to put a bit of a box, a bit of a structure around that, if you will. So first up, being a change agent. What is that all about and why is that important? It's important because our world already has a very clear divide, and this divide is going to become more and more prominent as we go further. It's going to be divided into 2 fractions. Those of us who live in the past, and living in past is not always a bad thing. Reminiscing of happy times is it's got a great feel-good factor. But when past becomes a baggage that starts to slow you down, slow your embrace down, slow your pace down going into the future, then it's a retardant. Versus those of us who choose to be on the winning side and embrace the future by accepting the change. So it's not a matter of choice. Which side are we on is a conscious choice that we all need to make in here. Are we going to be, imagine this as a game of sport, right? Imagine this to be football, right? There are 2 clear teams and it's a choice we are making by way of structuring our own prep work. Just the preparation we invest into it would decide which way we land up on. And just ask yourself a question at this time. When was the last time we actually reinvented ourselves? And this is not a philosophical question. This is a very pragmatic, a very real question. Reinvention is what keeps us young mentally, physically, emotionally. Reinvention is what makes us up to date and current and relevant for the times that we are chopping through. So the process of accepting, and not merely accepting, but enabling change is key. And if you would have seen the last talk that we had, even in the adversity, leadership through adversity section, we had talked about how we need to lean on a process as a solution where the answers are not apparent. So I would just like to underline the quote unquote, the word process in here, right? Because this is not even an accepting and enabling change. It's not an activity that you execute at a point in time. It's a phase that you gradually construct, grow into, and succeed with as a process over a period of time. And what does this process look like? Why? First is to assess the need of change, the need to change. Why do we need to change, right? So I guess, if this is something we all need to talk about, there is something wrong with us, right? Anyone who is hooked on, connected with the world around us stands agreed that we must change. We have to change because this ain't a matter of choice. The world around us has spun on its axis. We are doing a headstand and walking on our hands. Such is the intensity of change. What needs to be changed? Now, this is a critical part of the process that needs investment of time, thought, effort, and conscious and consistent time, thought, and effort to analyze what needs to be changed. And I think it's a bit of a foolhardy if we start to believe that everything about us needs to be changed or everything about us can be changed. Absolutely not. We are evolved folks. We are educated. We are experienced. We are accomplished. We are wired into our communities, into our family, into our workspace. So it is important to celebrate the goodness in all of us, but analyze and assess what has become redundant, what has become obsolete, right? And this process is going to bring about some pains. But growing and changing is meant to be painful before it gets feel good, right? If you aren't feeling uncomfortable, you aren't growing. So you have to allow yourself and resolve with the emotion of feeling uncomfortable. And how are you going to execute this process is by constructing and implementing a very dogged, determined, clear process with which you are going to induce change in small, concerted, steady steps. And when? Every single day. When I say small, concerted steps, when I talk about change as a process, this is every single day work, folks. This is not something we could say, hey, I'm going to invest the next 1 week or the next 1 month in changing. I'm going to evolve galvanized. I'm going to show up as my 2.0 on the other side, and voila, here you go, I'm market ready. No, it is a constant process of evolution. And I tell you what, it's been so even in the pre-pandemic era. The pandemic, the COVID-19 situation has only put spotlight on the need to evolve and change. The need to change always existed. And then once you have embraced change, once you have agreed to sign on into a process of change and you have started to change, what is very important is that you become an agent of change, an ambassador of change, because this is what is going to be at the central core of what is your market worth tomorrow on the other side when the new world order emerges clear, which is still evolving. The speed of response is extremely
Sorry, I have to cut in. Very sorry. We have people in the waiting room requesting for permission to enter. So Very sorry about this, but if you could just let them in, that'll be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will just do that pronto. All right, this should be good now. Thank you very much. And if at all someone is not able to log in, please do not worry about it. This webinar is being recorded live and I will be posting this through. So thank you. For the sake of continuity and flow, if you don't mind, I'll carry on. So here we go. We were talking about how the speed of response is key and being with the change is absolutely essential. Why? Because never in the history, modern day history of human civilization, have we encountered something of this velocity in terms of speed of change. It's almost like every morning we are waking up to a new reality or a new incremental reality, if you will. And that basically underlines the consistency and the speed with which we must induce change in here. Next up is, it's a very conscious choice we all need to make in here, right? Like I said, in the first point of this talk is the clear divide between people reminiscing and hanging on and holding on to the past versus the champions, the winners of tomorrow, right? Are we going to get back into the normal of tomorrow with the same toolbox, with the same playbook, with the same skill set before the pandemic struck? Or are we going to take these 2, 3, 4 months, I hope, to change, to reskill, to re-evolve, to re-engineer, and come back almost indeed as a 2-point version of ourselves? So, you know, folks, I'm just trying to simply underline the fact that it's a conscious choice that we all need to make in here. Playing victim or emerging winner it's a choice we are making. It is not circumstantial. Circumstantial is merely the event outside, but the response to the event is what we can definitely regulate. Talking about incremental, the concept of incremental improvements, there's this beautiful book called Atomic Habits by an author called James Clear that talks about marginal improvements every day. One has to believe in the power of small incremental improvements every single day. Like I just underlined, that it's not a one-time process and you have to. And my hope for all of you is that this pandemic is only the ignition point. It's a jump starter of inducing change, and the evolution continues for time immemorial. It's not something once we are back to normal life. And, you know, normalcy is going to try its best to push back change in us, to curtail down change in us, but that is where we must prevail. The good habits of marginal improvements, increments every day, day after day, must prevail. The key here is to be absolutely relentless in our pursuit, to be consistent. So we have to find a way to bulletproof our resilience and pursuit to change. You know, the good old saying of why break it if it ain't broken? It's time to reverse it. Break it if it ain't broken already. We have to challenge days of yesterday because they are tired, they are flogged. Perhaps many of them are irrelevant in the world of tomorrow. And yes, you read this graph right. Let me just walk you through with this. What basically this philosophy propounds is that just a mere 1% betterment every single day, when you compound that over 1 year, you are likely to emerge 37 times better in 1 year. So this is the stuff champions are made of. If you are stuck in mediocrity, if you are stuck in the median set of your performance capability, whether you're busy playing a mom or a dad, a parent, a child, a sibling, a peer, a boss, a leader, a subordinate, whoever you might be, if you are stuck, if you feel stuck in the middle of the bubble and you want to push your way out, you want to break through the glass ceiling, if you are merely 1% better every day for a period of 1 year, you will be 37 times better. And it's safe to say if you're 37 times better after 1 year, you are a clear outlier. You are a clear winner of every social, personal, or business segment of your life. So it's a very, very powerful philosophy about being incremental every single day, being consistent and being relentless. 1% a day for a year makes you 37 times better. So that was about the change agent in you. And hopefully, the last 10 minutes have been able to invigorate a little bit of the change agent that is hidden inside you. Changing gears to our second topic of the world around us. Why I'm calling this fast forward is because COVID-19 can surely be looked at as an accelerator that has fast forwarded our world by at least 5 years. So what's going to happen is we are in 2020 right now. It's safe to assume that what was going to happen in the years 24, 25 is going to happen in 2020, in 21. So what does it mean to all of us? What it means is that the impact, the global impact in every sphere this is going to create is going to be unseen and unheard. It is going to create shock and awe because of its intensity and the speed. It's going to lead to an evolution of on steroids in technology, in business, and in life, in every form, in every shape and form of life. And it is going to be uncomfortable. It is already uncomfortable. Why? Because, in our lives, whether it's on the personal or business side of things, we are used to embracing change. We are used to accepting and learning the technology, evolution in business, changes in our lifestyle at a certain pace. But now, with this accelerator coming through and flooring the gas, everything's on steroids. So it's a reality call. It's a war cry, guys, that, change is going to be induced at a breakneck speed, right? And we must take notice of the fact and ready ourselves to embrace change and accelerate our learning curve in all these spheres. This time, it's personal. And why I say that is because already in the last quarter, 3 months, never in our lives have we ever lived through a phase where a change in our external environment has personally impacted us. Career trajectories have gotten derailed. Our saving patterns have been thrown off. All of us had very clearly envisaged a line of sight for the next 3, 5, 10 years, where we see ourselves, where we see our family, our parents, our kids, our friends, our loved ones, right? And we can see this sanctum sanctorum getting impacted. So it's of a personal nature. So we must learn to separate the reality and put away the emotion of it so that we can remain steady and committed to the pursuit at hand. And like I just said, whatever was meant to happen in the next 5 years is now going to happen in under 1 year. So we better be ready and out there, wired in, tracking changes in technology, tracking changes in artificial intelligence and deep machine learning, tracking supply chain movements, right? And these are very deep talking points, which I hope to pick up in the chats and discussions in future that we would have. There's enough material, I'm sure, already coming at you in all of this, but I just wanted to highlight some of the spheres that would be moving and shaking as we go through this accelerated change curve ahead. So we need to flip gears very quickly. I would still say we are probably towards the fag end of stage 1 of surviving. It's a survival play. I hope it's soon to flip itself over into a revival mode where reconstruction, rebounds is going to start to build itself and express itself. And then what's important is not to merely stop at revive, because revive means coming back to where we were in the pre-pandemic phase as of early Feb 2020, right? I'd induce a level 3 thinking, which is thrive. Objective is not merely to be back where we were, but to blow past that and come back to the thriving ways that the good old story of human resilience stands for in here. A few more thoughts around it. And this is to do with supply chain a little bit. 17% of the global GDP is in some shape or form linked to China. This will change. Why is that? Because supply chains are going to immediately, they've in fact already started to go under a deep review. It would lead to new manufacturing hubs coming through. Now, imagine an Amazon shipping center, an Amazon warehouse, right? And with this iconic platform that Amazon has created with billions and billions of users, right? The merchandise that Amazon is sourcing, a humongous portion of it comes out of China. So just think, when was the last time you booked an Amazon order? I did mine just last week in here. I ordered myself a little bit of sporting equipment, and sure enough, the supplier was from China. And in the last 5 Amazon bookings and purchases that I've made in the last 6 weeks, I've had to cancel 4 and get refund. Why? Because they're struggling to suck supply out of China. So companies are going to be induced and compelled to work on plan A, but have plan B and C as a backup to mitigate and manage their risks. You can't put a global business and brand at stake by overleaning on one supply geography in here. So as these supply changes are induced, it is going to surely create economic shock, but it will also create opportunities. So in our companies, whether we are young starters in travel, hospitality, or any other industry, or we are successful entrepreneurs of our business or professionals in C-suite, it's again a choice that we have to look at it as a depressing shock that's going to blow us over, slow us down, beat us, or we will flip a gear and start to look at it as an opportunity in terms of where are we going to evolve our business and start to imagine the next 3, 5, 10-year line of sight for our businesses. So what I'm essentially suggesting is business and personal shock can be avoided by being fast, pacey with the change and future focused in here. So that was about our world, and fast forward, what was meant to happen in 5 years is going to happen this year, if not this, no beyond 2021. The last bucket, which is very close to my and my family's heart, is of course sustainability. This is becoming a bigger life philosophy from us. I must acknowledge, we started out looking at sustainability as a market trend. And then we understood sustainability graduating from a market trend, going into a revolution. And now we have personally embraced this as a life philosophy. And under sustainability, we're going to talk a little bit about the concept of gig economy. So gig is essentially a world where individuals in a destination are using technology to connect with tourists or corporate travelers coming into the destination and rendering a service cheaper. Think Uber, right? It's a student going to college by day, driving by evening and night, interacting with a visitor into the destination, leaning on technology platform of creating a direct commercial contract between the two and knocking the middleman out. That's what gig is all about in short. Some other examples are the Airbnb experiences where locals are putting their hand up to lend authentic, real, lifelike experiences for tourists seeking authenticity and going local, or the Deliveroo being delivered straight to the hotel room through a technology interface is also part of gig in there, which essentially is really all about bringing economies enabled by tech and cutting out the middlemen in there. One big thing that gig surely does, that it integrates locals with tourists, and it spurs authenticity and also addresses a major problem till it was end of last year, called over-tourism. I think over-tourism has self-sorted itself courtesy of the pandemic, but it will come back because travel is going to come back, because luxury is going to make a sensible comeback for sure as well. And these topics of authentic travel, hyper-localization of experiences, and concept of over-tourism are deep talking points, which I hope to cover as well. But it was important that we mention this in the call in here as well. What it will also induce is an expansion of our globe. Gig is inflating in a good way. It's expanding the size of our universe. Why? Because it's going to ignite second, third, fourth city travel. Why? Because government-sponsored, public sector-sponsored infrastructure in many beautiful, emerging, and sustainable destinations is limited to key gateway cities. A decent airport, good road connections, a great experiential hotel or resort being available, hygiene and health, minimum standards of those around. These are usually available in the bigger tier A metropolis cities. But when you start to go into the country, that infrastructure and the access to all these services, minimal acceptable services, it kind of contracts itself. But gig is coming to support that, where people from within the destination become the solution provider. So it's going to spur our travel deeper into destinations, and is also going to help spread the flow of tourism nicely, connect the tourists with the destination in a deeper sense. And the gig economy is actually also based on flexibility, temporary and freelancing job, that connect the clients and service providers through an online platform at their convenience. So it's more adaptable to needs of the moment. Like I gave you the example, if I'm a student, I can choose if I want to drive an Uber for an hour or 6 hours, right? If I am a tourist or a corporate traveler, traveling with my family, I don't have to necessarily book a car for 8 hours compulsorily. If I just need 2 rides, going to dinner or coming back, I can lean on this platform. So it's very adaptable, very flexible, and it resonates extremely well with the lifestyle of, think, millennials and the Gen Z. Millennials and Gen Z are all about control, sense of control on their life. They like to be on the steering wheel. I look at my young ones, and my elder one is 7 years, but I can tell she's so with it and likes to be in control of things, and she wants to do not 5 but 50 things in a day. And that's only possible if, powered by gig, she's able to indulge and engage in whatever she wants, only for how much ever long she wants. And then you flip over to the next task. So Gen Z and millennials are going to accelerate the expression of gig economy, and 5G is going to be a game changer in here. It's believed currently that the speed of 5G is going to be 100 times the data connection speed that all of us are used to in here. So you can imagine what kind of streaming experience, what kind of tech platform play would 5G enable in its in fullness of time once it becomes a reality, right? So that was a little bit about sustainability and gig economy. And how could we close today's session without talking about this gigantic oil spill, which is the absolute plummeting of oil prices, which was induced by this price war between the 2 biggest giants of OPEC, Russia and Saudi. But now the problem has already become bigger, right? Because the prices might not come into balance until way after the pandemic is over. And such is the flow of this free fall that not just oil, the low prices of fossil fuel with oil and coal, it might just eliminate some of the traditional modes of energy as we are used to. There is way too much supply. The warehouses are running overfull. The future's value is gone into negative. And to top it all, it's a perfect storm. Why? Because the demand is currently at its bare minimum, and it's going to be a slow uptick in demand even on the other side of the pandemic. However, if you flip the coin on the brighter side, it's a charge towards the renewable sources of energy. Why? Because the cost of accessing renewable energy is becoming so much more reasonable that it's already bordering on cost of fossil fuel enabled energy. So if all of us are given the choice at the same price point, what of the two are we going to buy? Fossil fuel energy that leaves a hazardous carbon footprint, or a clean, happy, renewable source of energy? I think the answer is pretty obvious. And this is sure to induce an even faster shift towards an embrace of sustainable energy. All right. So just to sum up, 3 things we've talked about is the power of being a change agent, an ambassador of change. Then we talked about our world in fast forward mode, where 5 years down is going to happen this or next year. And we spoke about gig economy and a little bit about the shift from fossil fuel to renewable energy. But talking about all of this, one big question, it does beg the question, if we need to change with such velocity, if the world around us is compelling and demanding of us to accelerate our own learning curve, where do we look for support and help? Where do we access material, education to change? So I wanted to close on a very positive note that should put all of us on a high. It's a known fact that 80% of the education material around the world, guys, is absolutely free and openly accessible thanks to the internet. So to take charge is a choice which is upon us. We don't have to rely on a fancy B school. We don't have to over-rely on a closed-door platform. You know why? Because the best of learning in the world out there is absolutely free and it's openly accessible. And my pursuit in here talking to you today sits right in the center of this 80%. Why? Because learning's for everyone and it absolutely should be free forever. On that note, this is the end of our session today. I exceeded by a few minutes, but we started a few minutes late, so I hope that's a fair play. Let's open this up for any questions and answers in here. It was awesome as always talking to you. We could take a couple of questions in here, and I look forward to forward-looking commentary and exchanges on various platforms as we go. So I'll open this up for questions, and I'll quickly take a look at the query box and chat in here if any questions have come through. Thank you very much.
Hi there. So I do actually have a question that reached me. This is on the gig economy. You mentioned that you'd possibly delve deeper in it in subsequent calls. But if you could very quickly ask you, in your opinion, how does it address the problem of over-tourism, please?
Sure. Thank you. Now, that is a great question. And for sure, it makes for a very compelling case to dig deeper and talk a little bit more about it. But you see, over tourism is when now, just travel with me. Let's take a flight to Piazza Venezia in Venice, right? And it is a commonly known fact that if you go to Venice in season, you don't even have to walk on terra firma because the crowd carries you. Such is the compression of crowd out there. So if you land up in popular destinations that are so crowded, it is exerting unbelievable amount of pressure on local infrastructure. It is in way and becoming destructive towards life for locals. And I'm sure many of us have. I sure have heard of many interviews with the locals in so many destinations calling out tourism or over tourism being in way of their life. So gig economy comes to rescue by integrating locals who become service providers to tourists, and it creates a spirit of connection. It creates a spirit of bonhomie between the locals providing service to to tourists who are the recipients of service. So just this human connection makes us all better and basically puts a blanket of human connection and happiness on the concept of tourism, thereby addressing tourism in that way, where the migrant labor force does not need to come in from cities and countries across, because locals from within the destinations are the beneficiaries of job creation, are the beneficiaries of lending authenticity to the experiences. So it's a win-win model, both sides. I hope that answers the question, at least in broad strokes, but I promise you to pick this up deeper in one of the following weeks. Thank you. Any other question, please? Oh, I see one.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, so the question is, do you think becoming a successful change agent could impact career curves for young starters in travel and hospitality? And the answer to that is an overwhelming yes. And if I may broaden the query a little bit, not just in travel and hospitality, irrespective of your domain, you could be into the business of luxury, travel, insurance, banking, manufacturing, service industry, healthcare. If you are an agent of change, if you are an enabler of change, this, for a young executive starting her or his career in tomorrow's world, is going to be the number one requisite that is going to be relevant and appreciated by enterprises of every kind, big Fortune 500s, SMEs, unicorn startups, by everyone. You know why? Because everybody on the other side, every kind of corporation or a business on the other side would look for people, look for professionals that aren't merely skilled, but are skilled to embrace change and become an agent to spread the galvanized thinking, to transform the enterprise. Because the companies are also dealing with the same shock and awe of the velocity of change, and they need such young change agents who are with it, who are empowered, who are aligned with change, and are willing to be the flag bearers of inducing and spreading change. So in all your interactions, if you're looking for a job, if you're looking to go back into your assignments, hopefully in a few weeks from now, just keep change as the central philosophy and do try to put it to play. And I'd love to hear of your experiences in terms of how that panned out for you. Thank you. I'm just a little conscious of time. We are pretty much towards the end of our slot of today. So if it's okay, we are going to close this unless there is any other critical query that is coming through. Perhaps not. So I will then bring this to a close. Guys, it was most awesome spending some time together on Saturday. I can't tell you how uplifting this platform of exchange and ideation is personally for me. And I once again thank you for your time. Do send in your queries, your suggestions if there is something that's keeping you up at night that you'd like me to talk about. I promise I take a deep dive on that and do some research and try to include that in some of the future talking points. Okay? On that note, wish you all a fantastic, energetic, restful, happy weekend with friends and family, and delighted to see the recovery coming through from the pandemic, with countries and economies slowly opening in a staggered fashion, but not too fast. So be safe, be healthy, and until the next one, I hope soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Closing the call.